Hello, hello, hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi,
Welcome,
everybody.
welcome, welcome
How you doing?
to the Path Outdoors. And I want to introduce you to your incredible host, Robert Castleberry in Georgia. Hey,
Hey,
Robert.
hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's having a good day. I think it's a beautiful, windy day out here at my house, but I'm enjoying it. It's better than the rain we've been getting, so I can enjoy the outdoors more whenever it's not raining.
Which is great. So we decided since this is the first uh, form episode of the Pad Life Outdoors, Robert and I are outdoors. I've got my sun hat on and I'm hanging out in a little bit of the sunshine in the backyard. And you're in the outdoors. You got this beautiful sign. Where'd you get that beautiful sign that's behind you?
I had a great artist who made this for me and everything, and I really enjoy it. And I've been having it hanging up on my porch for ever since I got it and everything. And I appreciate Douglas making this for me. He did a great job with it. I think so. I got that.
Yeah,
And
and
also,
Douglas is here. Douglas is going to be joining us as a co-host for this very first long form episode because we want to put you on the spot. Ultimately, you're going to be taking the lead for all of these Pad Life Outdoors episodes. And before we get into all of the details of that and what people can expect over time every single Thursday live right here on our YouTube channel, um, we want to hear your story, who you are, why you're doing what you're doing. And so Douglas had generously volunteered his time to come in here and also help me to be a part of the firing squad so we can put you in the hot seat and learn a little bit more about your story, learn a little bit more about the concept of the Pad Life Outdoors, why you started it, and all of that jazz. So let's say hello to Douglas, and he is the artist behind your wonderful sign back there. Hi, Douglas.
Howdy, everybody. How y'all doing this great afternoon?
hey Douglas, how you doing?
Everybody's under sunshine and we're under a tornado warning.
Oh,
Oh
that's no fun.
gosh.
Well,
No,
just
that
long,
makes it tough to get into the outdoors, does it? Doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So, Robert, tell us about yourself.
well, a little bit about me is I'm a single dad. Everything. I love the outdoors. I love hiking. I've had the goal for many years to hike the Appalachian Trail, and about 8 years ago, I got a little sidetracked with my goal because I was out running. I was fairly active. I ran, and just one day I started feeling some pain in my leg, and I thought I injured myself. Went to a doctor and kept going to doctors and stuff, and they kept thinking that I was injured, and it turns out I wasn't injured. I actually had peripheral artery disease and everything, and so I was being the stubborn person I am. I didn't listen to everything my doctors told me to do. I had some bad habits like smoking and stuff, but I just let it go and live with it type deal. I
What
mean,
did they tell you? What were some of the
well,
things I imagine because you did say, quit smoking, right? So
yeah,
I'm guessing you were smoking at the time. And smoking
yeah,
is one of the risk factors for peripheral artery disease. And for those who are just tuning in, peripheral artery disease is blocked arteries in mainly the leg arteries. That can restrict blood flow to your feet. And risk factors do include the smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, also diabetes, autoimmune conditions, and so many more things. But blocked arteries, atherosclerosis, or calcium buildup. I would even argue that when you do get clots that block your arteries in the legs, that can also be considered peripheral artery disease because it's treated in basically the same way.
mhm. Well, I mean, there's many things that they tell us to do. Change your diet. Um, exercise was a big thing that they told me to do, which I had already been the type person I was exercising with running and trying to stay in shape. Because at the time, the job that I had, I was uh, I was actually working as a correctional officer for the state of Georgia and everything, and so kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to do your job whenever you're in pain all the time. But I fought through the pain. I've got one of the biggest things is I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So what some people might not be able to tolerate, I tolerate just fine. But then for the longest time, I just kept fighting it. I was not following what the doctors told me to do. And I mean, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And the first 3 years, the doctors did not know what it was. Because I was using the VA doctors, and they had no clue what the problem was. They thought it was sciatica, and that was one of the big things I kept being told. Sciatica, that's what's causing the problems with your back and your legs. And so, I mean, I just kind of took it as that, and they sent me to get like epidurals into my back to try to help alleviate some of the pain. And it would last for a little bit, but it never got rid of that burning sensation in my calf muscles. And I noticed it more on one side than the other. And I mean, so finally,
Did you notice that a lot when you were exercising? Was it at rest, or how did it start to come about?
well, I felt it whenever I was exercising. That's when I first discovered it, because it felt like just a burning sensation in my leg and my calf muscle. And as soon as I stopped and rested for a second or two, or it would take about 10, 15 seconds, the burning sensation went away. So I'd start up again, just keep and go a little bit more, and it start burning again. Well, finally, after 3 years of not knowing what's going on, I got in touch, or got referred to a cardiovascular doctor here at the VA in Atlanta. And a great doctor, Dr. Harzan's his name. He actually was the first one who ever mentioned peripheral artery disease to me. And so he's like, well, we're going to get you tested. So I got sent down to surgical, and they did my ABIs. And that's whenever they said, oh, yeah, by the way, you have peripheral artery disease. And we're just going to go into a wait to see mode. You need to stop smoking. You need to do all this stuff. And also, if you might wind up losing your leg, because my blood flow had been cut off that so much. Kind of thing. I mean, that was what they call it, the critical limb speed.
Did it slow you down that much?
I went from being able to run 5 miles down to walking 20 feet and hurting in serious
Over
pain.
about what amount of time?
What was that again?
Over about how much time? What was that time lapse between 5 miles and 20 feet?
About 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
About 4 years it took before I went down to barely being able to crawl in. And
How active were you? How far were you walking or running, let's say every day, by the point when you started feeling
well, whenever
the pain, the cramping?
well, before I started, I could actually go on 16, 20-mile hike with no issues and everything, and I was fine. I walked over Kennesaw Mountain here in Georgia, and that's 16 miles to go around that whole mountain and everything. And I could do that with no issues. And it was
And so
crazy how
here you are, you're someone who's active. And over the course of 4 years, despite the fact that you're pushing yourself, you're active, you're walking, you're doing, you know, all of the things that you want to be doing in the outdoors. And then by the time you end up getting this complete diagnosis, you're only walking 20 feet. And yet the doctor says, let's go into wait and see mode.
pretty much that's the way it was. And they told me, oh, by the way, if it gets any worse, we might have to amputate a leg. And I'm like, oh, you're not taking a leg. Everything. And so we went to wait and see mode for about a year and a half. I think of just, all right, come see us every 3 or 4 months, and we'll see how you're doing. If you're getting any better or any worse. It never got any better. And I got pretty bad off. And so they finally wound up doing stents, and I had what they call the kissing stents, because they're like, oh, you got blockages behind your knees and above the knees and stuff like that. So they did the kissing stents, and that lasted for, I don't know, about 5 months. And all of a sudden I was at work one day and I could not move and everything. And I went to the hospital. I was having severe abdominal pain and everything, and I get it, and I pretty much crawled up to the door of the hospital, and they get me in there, and they're checking me out. They found out that I had an aortic aneurysm, abdominal aortic aneurysm, and everything. So they were like, "We're gonna operate on you now," and I'm like, I argued with them about that. I didn't want them to operate, but I knew that I really didn't have much choice because I do come from a family that has a history of aneurysms, and actually had four. I'm the fourth person in my family that has had an aneurysm. Two people passed away from it, and my grandmother and me are the only ones that survived it.
So go back one step. So for
Yes.
about a year and a half there, you weren't given any options. It was either this or amputate a leg. So that lasted about a year and a half with no other options.
Yeah, and the problem that I had with it is there wasn't enough information out there about peripheral artery disease for me to look up. Granted, we have Google. I love looking things up on Google, but Google only gives you gloom and doom for peripheral artery disease, and that's kind of where this idea of Pad Life Outdoors came from. Is I want people to know that it's not just a death sentence for us. Everything. I mean, it inhibits. I mean, it prohibits us from doing certain things for a certain amount of times, but it's not going to. If you don't let it stop you, you can keep pushing through, and you can get back to what you love to do and be outdoors, go hiking, go camping, ride your bike, spend time with your grandkids. I mean, that's things that I didn't have. I had no hope for that because just online, that's all it did was tell you, oh, this is not good. You only have 5 years to live, type deal.
It's
And so
ironic that you said that today because I went on to Dr. Google today, and I don't remember exactly what I was looking up, but it did come up with the list of questions, the frequently asked questions, and then you click on the little toggle to open it up and expand the answer. And the answer to how long will I live with Pad was literally most, I don't know, a large number of people end up living, up to 5 years, right?
yeah,
And it was quoting a private vascular organization, a chain of vascular centers known as USA Vascular. So I don't think that that's appropriate. If you're going to,
no,
as Dr. Google, going to cite an organization, that organization obviously is going to cite something else, but it didn't have in that little description
no.
or summary, it didn't have who they were quoting. And I think if you are going to do that, you need to cite research. You need to cite the source of the. Don't a private chain of vascular centers because number one, you don't know if they're actually reporting fact, and number two is to people who are doing the search, they think that suddenly USA Vascular is the source for them and they're going to go see their doctors or try and find a center, which is of course USA Vascular, it's probably their purpose in putting so much money into advertising on Google. But I don't think that's appropriate. So I actually wrote into Google with feedback
Oh,
and
awesome.
I said, I would rather you quote a large university study or a government study that is the most recent on that topic, as recent as you can get, for a question like that, that is affecting so many people. When we talk about our Leg Saver hotline and people calling in to our Leg Saver hotline to talk to us, so many people have already gone on to Dr. Google. And that is the first thing that comes up is how long will I live with PAD? And it has the USA Vascular and that they're not going to live very long. And that's not okay. So that being said, I could understand that you had lost all hope that you would ever be able to do all of the things you loved ever again. And so in that
We lost
moment,
we lost you, Robert.
we lost Robert. So in that moment,
Oh,
It's,
can you hear me now? Sorry.
yeah, I can imagine that you know, that was the impetus for you starting the Pad Life Outdoors. And I'm curious what was going through your mind as you were starting the Pad Life Outdoors. Was it something to say, you know what? This is going to give me hope because I am going to use this as an opportunity to give myself some accountability and to drive me to try new things and to push myself while also inspiring other people to do the same.
And that's exactly the way my thoughts of it was is I want to give people hope, and there is hope for us. Everybody out there, no matter what you're going through in life and everything, you can, if you just keep pushing through, you will, you can get through it and overcome. And that's why I kind of wanted to use this to chronicle being able to overcome this disease, not necessarily curing me because I know I'll never be cured, but I'm going to live a good, fulfilled life. I'm going to enjoy every minute of it, and I'm going to do what I want to do and accomplish certain things. I mean, I've got the Appalachian Trail on my mind, and that's been there for a long time. But I've also wanted to do a coast to coast walk from East Coast to West Coast, that thing. And so there's just,
So,
I mean,
couple
I've set
direct
certain
questions.
goals.
Couple
Was that
direct questions with that thought in mind. Go back. How long did it take you to stop smoking? Was it one of those easy things?
I quit? I quit the day that I had my aneurysm, and I haven't looked back since. Everything don't I have no desire for it, and I know it's tough because I did try quitting several times, and it was something that kept coming back. And but once, I mean, you have something like an aneurysm that kind of puts life in perspective for you. And I just encourage anybody out there to never even pick it up. Don't try it, because that's how I got started. It was a social thing, being in the Army. Everybody got together, they drank and they smoked cigarettes. And I was able to get rid of the drinking pretty quickly. I didn't care for it. The smoking is something that stuck with me for almost 30 years. And it took a lot of my money. It took a lot of my health from me. So I mean, I tell everybody, I said, if I could go back in time, that would be the one thing I changed in life. Wouldn't change anything else, even the other bad stuff in life. But smoking, I would change. And I would never pick that up in the first place.
How does that relate to what you do with the outdoor life? And has it been peaks and valleys? Has it been smooth? Do you have good days and bad days like the rest of us with your walking and with that thought process?
I have days where I wake up and can't, I can't move my legs hardly. And then I realize I got to put one foot in front of the other to get started. And it gets easier, but the more I get walking, the more time, because when I first wake up, I'm uneasy on walking. I think I feel, because I had the neuropathy in my feet, so I feel like my feet are on fire pretty much constantly, or I'm in the pins and needles feeling. So, and once I get up and get moving, it subsides some. But then after a while, after I've been walking for a while, I'll still get the cramping. But if I'm on level ground, it takes a really, really long time to get that cramping. Going uphill and downhill a little bit quicker. But now, I mean, I could probably do easily 2,000-3,000 steps now before the cramping starts. And just as a few weeks ago, when I went to that health fair, they did my ABIs, and my numbers have doubled since my aneurysm. They've gone up. So that means I'm getting better blood flow, and that's all attributed to getting out, walking, hiking, and just doing.
Can you imagine what your collaterals look like?
Oh, I would love to see a picture of them, because I probably got the state maps going everywhere, the road map going everywhere. Because I had several places I had blockages, and so
That would be a great idea for our padstories.com, is to have a category just called Show Me Your Collaterals. And then not to encourage people to go in and show and go get a CT angiogram just for for that, because that's, you know, unnecessary exposure to radiation and the contrast dye, and that's really hard on your kidneys and your whole body. But if you just so happen to have one scheduled, I think that would be really cool to, if you've been walking, to be able to show those collaterals and tell your story of how you were able to grow that collateral network of vessels. I think it is so inspiring for people to actually see it, because until you see that your body actually has this amazing detour system that it can
Mhm.
grow on demand, I think it's tough to believe. So um, I think that would be
I was skeptical at first, but I'm 100% a firm believer in building collaterals now because I've seen the difference. The difference of quality of life is a lot better. I mean, the difference in just everything. I feel better, and I mean all around, because before I didn't have the energy. And I still get that way every once in a while too. Now I'll have times where I don't have the energy, but I still have to keep on working because unfortunately I can't retire. I wish I could, but I have a I've got a teenage son that's still in high school. He's getting ready to go to high school. Actually, he's completing his 8th grade year, so now we get to start high school years. And so I want to make sure that I'm around for him, and I'm going to be around for a long time to see my grandkids grow up. I've got 7 grandkids, and I want to see them grow up. So
And I think that that's one of the things that you had mentioned to me early on about the Pad Life Outdoors, that you wanted to do this because you also wanted to include your son in a lot of the videos and a lot of the activities, and to show people that, hey, even if you have Pad, whether you have kids, you have grandkids or whatever, these are things that you can do and ways in which you can adapt your activities so that you
yep,
can still have fun with your kids and your grandkids.
exactly. And he's hit those teenage years, so you know how teenagers are, push away from mom and dad and stuff like that. But I mean, I got a great kid. He's a very loving kid, and I mean, he still likes to hang out with dad every once in a while. So I'm not total uncool to him, even though I threaten I'm going to wear a robe and shower caps and show up at a school that way.
So what are some of the videos that you've done that you're most proud of so far? And then we'll get into what some of your visions. I know you had said that you do want to be able to do an east to west coast walk, or west to east. You want to do the Appalachians. You have these big dreams, you know, for that. But what sort of videos have you done so far that you think people would be inspired to watch?
Well, one of the biggest things that I'm trying to work on and get better at is going around to the state parks here in Georgia. I really want to hit all 64 state parks, and I want to do videos on the accessibility for people with disabilities. So, and I want to be able to cover what sort of things they have, because I got a state park that's 20 miles away from my house, and I don't know if you guys ever seen those off-road track vehicles. They have them for people who with disabilities who can't walk. And so, and it looks kind of reminds me of Johnny Five from the Short Circuit movie. And everything. It looks kind of like that, but it has a seat on it, and so I'm looking forward to one day going out there and actually trying one out and doing a video on that. But also, I mean, I just want to let people know that some places are more accessible than others. So those are things that I really love doing, and that's kind of where I want to go. Plus, I've done review videos of different equipment stuff that we can use, the walking sticks, our hiking boots, and I want to go further down the road with that and get more things to talk to people about. And
I think that would be a big help for us, Robert, and you recognize like walking sticks, how different styles of walking sticks, like our shoes, our boots.
Yeah,
what kind of clothes should we wear when we're out walking like that?
exactly. And that's I love my trekking poles, but I have my handy dandy walking stick here. And if you look closely, you can see I have all these things, and these are all different places that I've hiked over the years. And I don't have my Mount Fuji on there, but I've done hiked Mount Fuji when I was younger. Everything. So that was one of my big things that I'm proud of. One day I'd like to go back to Japan and hike it again. I think so. mean, those
You
are
also did a
important.
video. I saw that you did a video on great snacks to take with you when
Yep.
you were out there hiking for people who are diabetic and looking for some heart healthy snacks. I think Marcia even made a cameo. Marcia is here, and she's a great outdoors woman, and inspires us all with all the hikes that she does during the nice weather. And she even shared some of her favorite snacks in
Yep.
one of the videos that you did.
I saw. I would appreciate that, Marcia. Everything. And I'm glad to see people are getting out there, and I love seeing all the videos and the pictures because there's so many different places to explore out there, and
You,
people don't know about that.
Robert, can I share something with you that was my goal this past year?
Yes.
Um, I don't know about you, but for me with PAD, the cold was my enemy because you're cold anyway with no blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
So this past winter, my goal was to embrace winter and hike in spite of it.
Yep.
And I did pretty good. I got until about the end of February, and then I was like, okay, I'm hitting the gym. But so that kind of cold weather gear and cold weather clothing might be a good avenue for you to pursue as far as people for PAD to embrace hiking.
Yeah, I definitely do that because one of the biggest things, if you're doing any long distance or multi-day hikes, everybody's always concerned with what is the weight of their pack, how much weight are you carrying, and for how long you're carrying that weight for. So I want to try to find the best gear that is lightweight, but that still will.
Yeah, but for people with PAD, they're probably not going on multi-day hikes at the beginning.
No.
I mean, just to be able to find a
No.
place where maybe they have a park bench where you can sit down and rest would probably be helpful.
Oh yeah.
That's how I started. I started little.
Well, that's what you got to do. You got to start little because
Loops.
whenever I started after I had my surgery, I mean, I spent 2 months pretty much sitting in a chair, barely able to move. Everything. I wound up while I was in the hospital, I actually wound up losing 78 pounds in the hospital. And so I was pretty much wasting away, but then I realized I gotta get out of here. I gotta get myself better and get back to walking.
Get up.
Get up. And that's a big thing is get up and get moving. I tried to walk.
Here.
Yep. And of course, during all that time, I was in a hospital where we weren't allowed to have visitors because of things going on in the world at the time. And so I had no visitors the whole entire time. So the only people I ever got to see were the nurses, and they were too busy handling other things. And then every once in a while, I would talk to the family on the phone, which when I first went in, I went in without a charger for my phone, and they wouldn't let anybody bring me a charger for about the first 3 weeks. So I was
on your outdoor, this apply for both of you. On your outdoor walks, uphill is different than downhill. Those different surfaces that you walk on.
Oh yeah. Well, there's big differences when you're going up the trail here, and you're hitting rocks, and you're having to climb over those rocks and stuff. That makes a big difference, especially if you're having issues with the neuropathy in your feet, because your balance and everything is not the same, and you can't step the same way because you don't feel like at the time you won't feel exactly your ankles starting to roll or whatever. So you got to be very careful with that thing. And so my uphill climbs, they're a lot more difficult. When I'm walking on level ground, it's great right now. I don't have too many issues. As I said, it'll come and go. Some days I don't know, and I still don't understand fully why that happens. Because I can have a great day where I walk like 10 miles one day, and then the next day I struggle to cover a half a mile the next day.
I'm the same way. I'm right there with you. Talking about hills, I found a little park. Well, it's more than a park, but I hike there, but it isn't huge, and it's kind of several loops, and if you do them all, it's probably 10 miles, but you can pick and choose how many loops and where they intersect. But it's a hill. It's a hill, and it's not a mountain, but it's a steep hill. And I call it my hill. It's my hill. And that's where I go. And if I can do nothing else, I at least climb it. Even if I don't have time to do all the hiking, I go there and I climb that hill, because I can get into the gym and get on a treadmill, but hiking, even a treadmill with incline, hiking is different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It just is, and it works. It works your calves. It works your thighs. It works everything. Of course, most of us need our calves muscles, but yeah. So I hadn't been to my hill until last week, and about a month and a half, and I was so afraid to go. And I was tired, but I still marched right up that hill, and it made me feel so good. and I actually did several of the loops.
Another video you can do, Robert, is like chairs. Have you thought about the chairs that we can carry with us? I have a chair that folds. It's about this big, but it unfolds into a chair that I can sit if I'm on my walk somewhere and I get tired. I just unfold it, sit down, but it only weighs a couple of pounds or less than that.
I thought I would actually put up a little whiteboard up here, and I can take notes on ideas, show ideas. And then I can so we have Douglas. You were talking about reviews. So we'll put reviews here, and that's going to be on walking chairs, right?
Walking sticks, walking chairs.
Walking sticks with chairs. Okay.
They're called trekking poles. This is really the appropriate name for them. People use walking sticks, but if you're a hiker, you want a hiking pole.
And trekking poles, but also ones with chairs, because those are a little bit different. I think that the ones that have the chair that pops out of it, I think they're more of a cane type of thing. But it'd be interesting to see what he can find. What else should we review?
Shoes, boots.
Shoes, insoles.
Shoes and boots are different because boots are really heavy and they're for different terrain. If you're in a park that's on paved, like a sidewalk, you want something completely different than if you're on rugged terrain.
I even put in water bottles might be a good one, because there are different types of water bottles. You can get, of course, the free plastic ones, but we just we're talking in the group about a new study that came out that said how much pieces of plastic they're finding actually in people's arteries, these plastic particles. So and they were, one of the reasons they were citing, I think in the study or in the article that was reporting on the study, was that it might be because of all the plastic water bottles people are drinking from. So, Robert, you might want to address that, and you might want to talk about a good water bottle that is, for people with PAD or problems with their arteries. What else do you guys think?
Water bottles with the backpacks, the small backpack you can put water in.
They're called bladders.
The Camelbacks.
Camelback, yeah.
Yep.
I got my chair out. If you want to see my chair.
Oh, I can see is Kym's screen.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
What else do you want to review? Is there anything else, or do you want to come back to that one?
A big
sunscreen.
What about snacks?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
And we did snacks.
I think
that's a good one to continue.
I think a big thing that needs to be addressed is socks for your foot care while you're hiking. That's important, different, because there are different types of socks. So I want to get more in depth of what's better, wool, moisture wicking, or just regular cotton socks. So, I mean, that's one of the things I plan on covering too.
So as you learned as you went along, did you experience a lot of the good and the bad with learning what works for you and what doesn't?
I mean, foot care I kind of learned early on. That's the thing that's taught to you in the military. Because when you go out and you're doing 20-mile rough march, biggest thing they say is, all right, we're stopping every 5 miles so you can change your socks and everything. So foot care has always been a big thing on my mind. But there's new things out there though, from whenever 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So things change, and I want to be able to stay on top of what's best out there and what works for everybody and what is good for adapting for us. Because I don't know if you guys ever have an issue, but your feet will swell up, and you can't just put on any regular sock, because with your feet swelling, things just don't fit the same. I'm lucky I don't have that problem as much anymore. Every once in a while I could feel that my feet are swollen up, but I think a lot of that comes from just overuse sometimes.
How has your diet changed?
My diet I'm working on still. I mean, I'm not the best. I've incorporated a lot more vegetables than what I used to eat. I used to be the typical meat potatoes guy. Give me red meat, give me potatoes, and I'm happy as a lark. And tons of bread. I still, every once in a while, I do bread, but not as often. I'm trying to find alternatives to fill those, to give me that fill, because that was one of my biggest things. Is I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", and filling up my belly can be tough sometimes. So, and that's what I've learned is portion control and just making all your calories count. Because if you're putting in too many calories, then it's not going to do you any good. And that's where you're going to start with the cholesterol, the diabetes, and stuff like that. I'm fortunate enough to where I don't have diabetes. I've never been pre-diabetic. It's just, I have a family history of diabetes though. So, and I know that's something that can be picked up through hereditary. And I think like my dad, I think he has peripheral artery disease. He's just never been diagnosed because he has some of the same symptoms I have, but he's at the age now where he's living his life and he's going to enjoy his life. Everything.
So we got down to, we have quite a few ideas here. We have the reviews all up the top that has the most. Then we have some foot care, how to check your feet after a hike or walk, shoe types for hikes, shoe types for general walking, offloaders, after hike, walk, exercise, swelling, how to deal with it, when you should go see your doctor, that kind of thing. The state park accessibility series that you want to do, outdoor cooking for PAD. That's a really good one. I'm glad Douglas brought up the food again, because I think that you could do barbecuing with PAD, things that, like my dad does all, vegetables in the barbecue sometimes. Camping hacks. So you're going camping with the kids or the grandkids or something. The easiest thing that you want to get are, marshmallows, and you want to roast them, and there are hot dogs and hamburgers. But what are some of the things that you can bring if you're on a heart healthy and diabetic friendly diet that are fun and easy to do? So camping hacks would be great. Picnics are another thing. Every time I've gone on a picnic, everyone always seems to want to bring the processed meat, all the cheeses, all the crackers, and I'm allergic to all of it, and it's not necessarily heart healthy or diabetic friendly either. So some hacks for picnics as well would be interesting. And about interviews, what sort of interviews? Who are the types of people that we want to interview? I think one of them immediately should be Kevin Morgan, who's the athlete with a stent. He had an aneurysm. He was stented in his aorta, and he has PAD. He has multiple blockages in both legs. Doctors said they couldn't treat, and yet at 80 plus years old, he went off and competed at the World Ironman championships last year, and he just got accepted again. to start competing. And so he would be an interesting one. We're actually interviewing him on Saturday about because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to talk specifically about how he overcomes those mental challenges that come along with the disease in order to continue to persevere and compete at the level he is. So he would be interesting. Does have a book on how to, I forget the exact name of it, that is how to manage or how to persevere with the crippling pain of PAD. And he has great tips and tricks in there that you might want to have him on to talk about.
I'd love to do that talk with him and just, and find out from the mental aspect for somebody who's athletic and how they're dealing with it. And because there are a lot of athletes out there that have this disease and they might not know about it or they might not be diagnosed yet, but eventually it's gonna hit. So there's lots of them out there that I would love to talk to, and just talk to anybody who loves the outdoors in general. I want to feel like
offer.
Sure, we want all ideas.
Trail safety is huge, especially somebody who's going out already with a known ailment. So there's something called the 10 essentials. And now if you're just going down the street, you probably don't need the 10 essentials. But if you're going out on a hike, you probably need the 10 essentials. And and that would be more important if you have a health issue.
And those are all things that we cover too. It's just, what you need to do to prepare for your hike.
Can't forget the animals that we run across out there.
What's that again?
Can't forget the animals.
Oh no, I got video of bears that we hiked up on, and it literally been about 10, 15 feet away from bears, stuff from like that. We got coyotes, and the raccoons love us because we leave so much stuff out there for them to go through.
Can I tell you guys this little funny story about today?
What's that?
Of course.
Today I was on a hike, and this was the first. I live in the country, so I had mice this past fall when they harvested the fields, and in my house it was gross, and I hated it. I was petrified, and so I really don't like them. Today I'm on the trail, and here comes this little mouse, and I thought, is that a mouse? And it's coming right at me, and sure enough, it was. It was kind of like three blind mice. I think it was blind, and I not to poke it, but I had my trekking pole, and I stomped it.
You taunted the mouse. You taunted the blind mouse.
I kind of, well, I don't know, but it scurried off, but not too fast. It wasn't very afraid. But yeah, so you do see critter snakes, knowing the snakes in your area, and anyway.
Find those.
Usually mice hide from you, so usually mice hide.
Yeah. I call the snakes the nope ropes because I don't care what type of snake it is. I don't get close to them. I don't like them.
Mm-hmm. I usually, if I see them on the bike trails, I take a stick and lift them and put them off into the grassy area. I'm not afraid of them.
I just go around them.
We have a lot of good ideas. Where do you see this? Where in say 5 years from now, where are you hoping to be, Robert, with both this and yourself?
In 5 years from now, my son will have been graduated from high school, and I hope that I'm on the Appalachian Trail hiking or on the PCT Trail, one of the Continental Divide Trail. I want to be out just hiking every day. And be done with work and retired. So, and the thing is, if I don't keep up with my regiment that I have now, where I'm moving every day, then I'm just going to see myself going back downhill, and I'm not going to let myself do that. So my big plans are just to push through, keep hiking, and I would love it to be able to join some of these guys that have hiked all over the world and go out and hike with them. I think because I've met a lot of interesting people over my time. I've talked to people that have hiked, that have done the walk across the United States. And one guy did it actually pushing one of those like baby stroller type carts, but he pushes all his gear with them that way and walked across the United States pushing that thing, which I thought was an ingenious idea to carry all your gear with you and thing. So I mean, those are my goals, everything, and just goals. The biggest goals try to stay healthy and be around in 5 years. But
Okay.
and I know it's possible because, as I said, I've talked to people online that have had this disease for 20, 30 years now. And so it tells me it's manageable. As long as if you try to follow what your doctors tell you to do. I don't always 100% agree with doctors, and I don't think any of us do out there, because we always think we know what's better for ourselves and everything. But sometimes you do got to sit back and say, okay, let me take this with a grain of salt and listen to what he's telling me to do and see how I can incorporate those things the right way, and maybe not jump head first into something, because I know a lot of people, they swear by going out and eating mushrooms and stuff like that. And I physically can't eat a mushroom. I've tried, and it actually physically makes me sick, and I don't know why. But so I'm trying to find alternatives for those things, because I know everybody has their different likes and dislikes. And so you got to discover what you like and what you don't like yourself, and what you can tolerate, pretty much.
And Robert, I'm wondering this about your journey so far. When you hike, you need extra calories and different types of calories to maintain stamina.
Oh yeah.
So like pre-hike, for instance, most people who work out, they have heavy carbs before they work out. Well, how do you manage that, or protein or fats, even fats, because they give you energy. They might be short term, but they do give you energy. How do you manage that?
And that's another thing I do want to cover is the food aspect of hiking and long distance hiking, because there are different companies out there that make hiking food per se, and that's all freeze dried food. But then if you look at those freeze dried foods, what are they? They're high calorie, high carb, high sugar, and stuff like that. But there are a few companies out there that make the more of a heart healthy camping stuff. And also, I mean, one day I would love it if I could freeze dry my own food to take with me.
Even further on that subject, Kym, it'd be interesting to have a nutritionist on, because somebody who can't, say somebody with PAD who is pretty much sedentary versus somebody who is, Robert, you said you were doing 10 miles a day. Like, are his dietary, would he burn off that sugar or fat or carbs, and where a person who's sedentary wouldn't? Like, are there different dietary requirements or allocations for somebody who's really active?
There's a bunch of different things that we can go over, and I mean, I look forward to covering as much as I possibly can for everybody. And I always encourage anybody, if you have questions or ideas, shoot me a message and everything. I can be reached at my email address, which is rcastle2911@gmail.com.
It's actually Robert
at
that's Robert. thewaytomyheart.org.
That's right. I do have a new one, Robert at thewaytomyheart.org. You can reach me there. Send me messages that way. Your ideas, what you want to see done. And those are big things, because I can always come up with a bunch of things, but if it's not what you want to see, then I want to make sure that I'm engaging everybody out there. And
is that the same as your YouTube channel?
So he also has a YouTube channel, so you can actually go to, and we can just go to padlifeoutdoors.com. Padlifeoutdoors.com is his website that leads you to the YouTube channel, and then Robert at thewaytomyheart.org is the email, and you can contact him there with lots and lots and lots of ideas. I want to finish off the ideas here though, because we got derailed from our idea session. And I just want to finish off the types of interviews that we want to do.
Okay.
We talked about Kevin Morgan being an athlete. You want to interview other potential athletes, but we want to be realistic as well. And think about, I think Marcia, you mentioned, we want more nutritionists to come on that can specifically talk about the different foods to take on hikes and offer ideas.
And if the nutritional requirements are different for somebody who's really active with PAD than somebody who's sedentary or, in the struggling stages.
Yeah, and we also want to make sure, I think, through this, that for the people that are checking, this out, obviously, if they're signing up and subscribing to your channel, they're struggling with PAD, they're struggling with the outdoors. And so when you're talking about all of the big trails and the hikes, here and there, I think that we need to scale back a little bit and think about the people that are where you were only walking 20 feet. And you want to get them started and inspired to be able to enjoy the outdoors, to be able to start hiking, to talk to them about, let's say, finding those progressive trails, the ones where no matter where you start, you can always turn around and come back. And so you can, I think that there could be a series on progressing on a trail, how to progress on a trail. Day one, plan to go 15 minutes in, and then you can make it 15 minutes back. Scheduling your walks, based on, how far you can walk right now. So if you can only walk 6 minutes without stopping, making sure you find a spot that you're going to walk that in 6 minutes has a place that you could potentially sit, right? And then in another 6 minutes has a place you can potentially sit.
Yep.
And then if you
What
can
about
make it past those 12 minutes that you can turn around and come back.
Don't forget your city parks. Most city parks now have little spots that they can walk. We have one right down the road here, 5 miles, and there's a bench every 200 feet.
Yeah. I have a park right next door to my house, actually. That's got a mile and a half trail around it, several places to sit down and stuff like that. It's a great place to get that's where you really want to start out, is something like that. You don't want to try to, I'm going to go jump on the Appalachian Trail today.
Right.
I'm going to go jump on the PCT. Well, a lot of people don't realize PCT and the Appalachian Trail and the Continental Divide trails, those are dangerous places. So you kind of gotta know what you're doing, what you're getting into, and where's your jump off points, jump on points, and stuff like that. So,
when I started, I was always looking for an escape. Where, if I get stuck, how do I get back to my car? How quickly can I get out of here? Not just sit down, but leave.
Yeah.
And then that increased and increased and increased. And sometimes I'm back to the beginning. I mean, it depends on, because with PAD, you don't know where you're going to be on any given day, month, week.
Well, I go out and sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm going to go hike this trail that's right down the road from my house. And it's only about a 2-mile trail. And I'm just going to go hike it. And then I get there and I'm like, yeah, my legs are hurting. I don't feel like doing this and everything. So, that's right. That all comes back to the mental aspect. You got to just push yourself through sometimes. But then there's sometimes
it is the mental thing is huge. And that's why I like to always know when I had an escape route, especially in the beginning. I had I'm not going to get out there and be stuck and they're going to have to call search and rescue on me.
and I really would love to talk to some people out there that struggle with the motivation to go out and walk and hike, stuff like that. I like to talk to them and find out why, where they lose that motivation at, and why they.
I think it's fear. It's fear.
Well, I understand a lot of it is fear, because as we all get older, you start fearing things that you feared before. As a kid, I climbed to the top of a tree and I wouldn't care anything about it. Now I wouldn't think about going up 2 feet up a tree. So, mean, as we get older, we get smarter, but I think fear does take over a lot of in our minds as you get older because you're afraid of falling and breaking something, and so.
Yep. So I
Rather,
have also on here for people to interview. We have VJ, who is also in our group, who is an avid walker, and I think we should also have you interview Marcia because she has some really great tips
Yeah.
for hiking. And I know that maybe one of the days where she's out hiking, maybe you both can go hiking together, Marcia in her area, you in your area, and actually go live while you both are hiking. Talk about what you're seeing, talk about some tips, talk about things that people should be aware of when they're taking a hike.
I mean, that sounds like that'd be a great video to do.
I'd love it.
I think
like
that
to
would
share-
be fun.
I like to share some of the scenery that people don't realize we have here in Georgia. I mean, we got the mini Grand Canyon here. A lot of people don't know that, and it's down on in an area of Georgia that everybody considers flatland, but it's a great canyon to go walk in. I think so. But
I agree with you. When I started hiking, I mean, I found out, I live in Ohio, and you think of Ohio as being flat Tornado Alley, which it is. But
Yep.
we have beautiful, I'm going tomorrow to a gorge. I mean, we have beautiful places, and they're in my backyard.
Yeah.
And, if you're just driving to the grocery store, or driving to the mall, or driving to your doctor's office, you're missing
There's
so
so much.
much.
There's so much that everybody misses, and it's easy to miss because of the rat race of running around day to day, just trying to do daily life activities. So,
Right.
And that could be something that you could do as well as one of your different shows, which is to encourage people to show me something in the outdoors that people don't normally see. What is special about your area?
and that would be great to cover because I know there's different places all over that have things that you're not going to see anywhere else but there. I mean, I think everybody was treated to a great thing last week was when they had the Northern Lights stretched all the way down here in Georgia. And I've never seen that before here in Georgia. I've seen it when I was up in Alaska or up in Washington State and everything, but to see it down here in Georgia was just amazing. And a lot of these people here had never been out of this state, so they got to be treated to something really spectacular that way.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I stayed up until 10, and then I guess that the real show started at about 10:30, and I'd fallen asleep. And then I didn't want to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning to have to see it. But I've always wanted to see the Northern Lights, and the moment I have it and it's in my backyard, I am asleep.
Yeah, and it'll come again one day. I mean,
Another 20 years, right?
I don't even know I don't even know how often it comes down that low. Did they say it was 20 years or is it more than that even?
Well, they said the last one was 20 years ago, so
Really?
I just figured maybe every 20 years.
I don't even remember that, but 20 years ago, I was younger and I was into a bunch of other things. So
it's amazing with social media how many more things that we're aware of that we never were. Because if you missed the news or you didn't read the newspaper, I remember 20 years ago, gosh, what was I doing? I'm not even, I was working in television and I don't even remember. And even here in the Bay Area, I was working in television. I think I was a morning anchor at the time. And I don't remember our station even reporting on it. So it's interesting that, in 2024, what's more interesting, now than it was,
and
back in.
I saw, I mean, all the great pictures everybody posted on Facebook and social and all the different things, Twitter and Instagram. So it's pretty cool seeing what everybody was seeing at different, pretty much at the same time, but in different locations. Everything. It was pretty cool to see all that. So.
Yep. Definitely was. Well, Robert, what do you think? This has been amazing. This is a great first episode of Pad Life Outdoors. I don't know if you have any plan for your next show next week, next Thursday, but people can tune in next Thursday. I think same bat time, same bat channel, and a different topic. We're going to start you on your way with some really great information. Hopefully, that'll help people who have PAD enjoy the outdoors a lot more.
Yeah. And I had a great time talking with each and everybody out there. As I said, just keep the ideas coming. I'm pretty much open to anything and everything. So I just see Douglas playing with his chair there. But no, I've had a great time and everything. And those are, I mean, I want to continue doing this and getting the word out there. Let people know there is hope, and we can just keep on walking together, hiking together, and one day maybe we'll all meet together and go do a big hike or something together.